Hi, this is Diana Payton, and you're watching Technical Writing Uncensored. I'm here with Kelly Murphy, Staff UX Technical Writer. How you doing, Kelly?
I'm here. It's winter. It's dark. So
I'm
any kind of vibrancy on the screen helps. I can pretend it's
red.
sunlight, right?
hmm Well, yeah, I joke that I am not a cold weather creature, so I feel you. I kind of want to hibernate, and you will often see me just clutching my warm mug of tea here.
Yes. Yes.
Gollum, it's my precious. All right, so to distract you from winter, perhaps you can tell me how you got into technical writing in general and UX writing in particular.
Okay. So the technical writing in general was like a bunch of left turns that ended up in a totally different place than I planned, or a different place than I planned. I often joke that like life is what happens when you're making other plans. Um,
Because it's true.
right? So I was originally supposed to be a sign language interpreter.
Cool.
Yeah. So I got my bachelor's degree, started working towards my national certification, and that funny thing happens once you're out of college that bills. Um, so I took an overnight job at a small tech company, just doing like customer service, first line troubleshooting sort of stuff, for a cybersecurity company.
Also
And
fun.
Sure, yes. It was a very unfamiliar world. I was an accidental techie, so this was not something I thought I had an affinity for, but apparently I do. And got into the interpreting stuff in the daytime, dipped my toe in the field and went, ooh, that's not for me. So I had a bachelor's degree and a whole bunch of like language experience and realized I really like helping people communicate. So I went to the powers that be at the company I worked at the time, and I was like, I really want a job. Who writes the instruction manuals? I could do that. And they told me no. And then I saw them in the cafeteria in the break room for about a month. And I'm like, do you have another opening? 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 And they finally relented. And I had a manager who built me from the ground up. Like I went from the frying pan to the fire when I started because I got hired in the middle of a huge, massive migration and restructuring project. They were going from like unstructured FrameMaker, us old people know what that is,
Yep.
to structured FrameMaker, or no, to a CMS system with DITA. Yeah. And I started off on a team of 8, and within a year, it was just me writing all of the stuff for a product all by myself and
But
managing my own hardware lab.
wait, how did that happen?
um, it was under control. So they got assigned to other things, and I had a 16
Okay, so
document
so it's
set.
not like they all got fired one week
Oh
or
no,
something.
no, no, no. This was like that, little fish gets eaten by a bigger fish situation. So that small tech company that I started out at
hmm
got bought out by McAfee. And then somewhere a little bit after that, they got bought by Intel. So I went from working from a small, cool little, I guess you'd call it a startup now, independent company to this massive global conglomeration. And like, how did that happen? Um,
This is not where
but
I thought I was. This is
exactly,
not my beautiful
exactly.
house. This is not my beautiful wife.
Yes. But what I found out is that it's still kind of interpreting. Just now, I'm interpreting between engineers and users because they
hmm
don't speak the same language at all.
It's true. Yeah, I had a whole discussion today and have had this argument elsewhere about why we're not going to use drawer in the documentation to refer to a piece of the software. Yeah. I think my winning argument was imagine how it's going to look for the auto translate that
hmm
people might be using.
Yeah, I hadn't. Actually, it's funny because my team we have the same thing on my current team. where I was like, let's call them slide out panels because that makes sense to me because a panel is vertical, a drawer is horizontal.
Yeah.
I lost that debate, but I don't have to call it a drawer externally because currently I am mostly doing UX writing. So you had also asked, like, how did I go from being a tech writer to a UX writer?
Oh, that actually was going to be my next question is how did you get into UX? Well, actually, that was part of my first question is how did you get into UX writing in particular? And also, what is the difference between general technical writing and UX writing for those who are not aware?
Oh my gosh, that's such a huge question. Okay. So
start with the small one and then go to the big one.
So how I got into it, also somewhat by accident. When I was working for that giant conglomeration, they were very much in the waterfall method, where it would take 6 months to deliver any. I know, I'm old. This face looks very young,
I was there
I'm
too.
old.
I understand. I think you're younger than me, woman. Don't you be complaining.
We shouldn't tell anybody in public. That's the rule, right?
Yeah, they can assume whatever they want.
Right? Skincare is a thing.
We're young at heart.
So we were working waterfall, and then they transitioned to the magic of agile. And all of those magical buzzwords. And the thing that happened was they ended up putting me in the room with the engineers and the PMs and all, versus like being my separate little cubicle, getting things well after the fact. And it just so happened that I had an engineer explaining a feature to me, and I was like, oh, did you know you have a typo in your screen there? And the engineer went, oh, somebody else will see these things here. And so I ended up reviewing everything before it went out. And that was UX writing back in the day because it didn't really have a title. And I did the same thing at my next job and my job after that, I think UX was actually officially in my title and part of my role. But the thing is, like back in the day, they didn't think about those things as separate. And a lot of times it was the engineers and the PMs who were doing the writing that appeared in the UI, which I will gently say is probably not the greatest idea. So how they're different. And I love doing both. So don't get me wrong. I love them both for very different reasons. The technical writing is kind of a supplement to the UI. It should complement it. There's a lot of people who believe that if your UI requires documentation, that your UX isn't that good. And I think that's kind of bullshit.
Well, it's a myth. I have a whole rant about how the UI that is so amazing that it doesn't actually require documentation is an absolute myth. At the very least, you need to have a list somewhere of what you can actually do with the software, what is possible. And then people might have some hope of finding it. But no.
Exactly. So to me, UX writing is kind of like the mission impossible. So like being a technical writer is fucking difficult, right? Mm-hmm. It's a hard job. It is a brutal on your ego kind of job. Now take that and smash it into 60 characters with 12 ideas. You know, you are every day given this challenge in a teeny living space, if we're doing movie quotes here. And I love the challenge of that, of like, okay, how can I subtly guide them to the right decision with a preposition? And just one preposition. Because, you know, everyone has their level of insanity, and that's kind of funny.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm going to try not to break into song, but there's a song that goes,
just one musical.
Not gonna hurt. Just one prepositional phrase.
Yeah. I think that's a different podcast.
Probably. I don't know.
But yeah, so like UX writing to me is a specialization of technical writing with its own unique challenges, its own unique voice. And currently in my current position, I am writing for 4 different audiences on the daily, and each of those audience has different language needs and reading level and vocabulary. And it's like, I walk all of those paths, and I think I'm the only one in the company that does. So it's kind of cool to be able to be like, no, their reading level is 12th grade, and here's why we have to choose this word over the other. And then, a lot of times they still ignore me anyways, but I have guidelines to support my opinion.
Oh, my favorite trick is to have a style guide, and then I can always fall back on, per the style guide, yada, yada, yada. And sometimes I will have like 2 seconds before I said that updated the style guide. It's like, yeah, the style guide says it, therefore it has to be true.
It is amazing how convincing documentation is to talk about documentation.
Yes, especially when you control the rules.
And then you take your style guide and then you expand it into a whole content system, which is what I'm currently managing. Because we'll talk about this more later, but like being a solo person, you have to figure out how to scale. Again, it's like performing Mission Impossible, but instead of a small space, you're covering an entire football field of language. So I had to do this by myself in my current gig, and it's been a great challenge. I will definitely say I'm a little tired.
Understandable.
But I've created some really neat stuff.
Which is something to be proud of. Speaking of creating, do you use any special tools for UX writing?
So the biggest secret to UX writing, in my opinion, is figure out how to use the things your designers are using. So whether it be Figma, Axure, whatever, be competent enough to be able to communicate in those threads, find what you need, and point out what's wrong. Because you'll see things your designers won't. Like a lot of writers I found think about flow and workflow in a way that some designers don't. So that's like beyond like language support. We're not just typewriters. Like we think about the experience from the aspect of information and learning. And that's kind of an aspect that designers don't think about because they're like, well, what needs to happen to get from here to there? And it's like, but you missed this decision point. So we need to add that into the flow somewhere. So whatever their design tool is, and I'm a huge proponent of learning how to do stuff actually in the code. So be familiar with a repository system, whether that's GitHub. Oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the other big Git one. GitLab. There we go. There are other repositories out there, but those are like kind of the big two. Whether you want,
I think Azure DevOps is one that I'm working with right now, which is basically GitHub but worse. A certain company decided that there's GitHub. We're going to take it and make it worse.
That sounds about right.
Sucks. I actually like GitHub.
That sounds about right for Amazon.
Oh, it's not even Amazon. It's
wait, no. Microsoft, which one did you say?
Azure DevOps.
Oh, that's Microsoft.
Oh, yep.
Oops.
I'm sure Amazon has their own thing, but since I've never worked for them, I have not experienced it.
I've touched both, and I find like at a certain point, companies get so large, like their own mass impedes their creativity, and they just go back to kind of reinforcing old ideas that aren't great anymore. You need a really, really good product leader to kind of break that.
Yeah. Or a bunch of smart-ass technical writers who are fearless and are telling you why you're wrong, and then you have to listen to them. So it's really just easier to get a product leader and listen to them. But then, that's still a two-part process. Get good person, listen to good person that you hired because they're smart.
And yes, that is.
Yeah, that's.
They usually fall down in one of those two.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like those are kind of the big tools that I recommend because like we can learn how to write in anything. You give me an editor or markdown language, I'm going to figure it out. That none of that matters. It's all as long as you can learn something, you're good. But those are kind of the two wheelhouses for UX writing. Now, beyond that, you might want to think about tools like Ditto Words that helps you manage translation and your entire word set between the flow of these things. But you can get by without it, depending on how large your content set is.
Yeah. I saw a job ad a while ago that was talking about some sort of software for in-app tutorials, like kind of guided tutorials. Have you worked with
Was it
something like that before?
Storyline?
Possibly.
Okay. Yeah, those are fun too. Those are kind of it's like that microcopy idea where you can point to a certain thing in the screen, add a little bit of knowledge, and it overlays your existing UI. It's pretty cool. I've gotten my fingers into so many tools being the only writer in the company because they all need me. And I'm like, well, I need access first. So let me go learn this other cool thing. Someday I will make a list of all the stuff I'm reasonably competent in using, and it will be a very long list. Because I feel like that's the other thing is like a tech writer, a UX writer, you have to become so adaptable to survive.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of being a lone tech writer, tell me more about that. Would you, besides trying to cover an entire football field of language, what else? What else is it like being a lone tech writer at a nifty startup?
So it has its pros and cons, right? Like con, you are responsible for all the words. But the big pro is you don't also have to argue with any other writers about what style you want to go with. You make a decision and you move on. So you get accelerated in that way. The danger that you run into is if you don't document your choices and then you end up
Mm-hmm.
conflicting yourself later, which is why it's important to have a living style guide because they grow, they evolve. Like right now, I need to add a section about perspective about using either my homepage versus your homepage and why we're going with this direction. And I have an A to Z section in my content system that I'm telling you, I'm adding sections every other week, new headings
Mm-hmm.
like what about apostrophes or what about exclamation marks? What about that lovely preposition table? Because prepositions are hard, especially if like English isn't your first language. Prepositions are the devil. And just all sorts like when do we use please? Like all sorts of decisions like that because they I need to offload that off my brain and I need to give other people a way to look it up so they don't bug me, which is fine.
Yeah.
Like part of me wants them to bug me, but also I want them to be able to find their own information first if they're one of those people. And as you alluded to earlier, it's very nice to be like, the guidelines say, and then it becomes gospel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So tell me a little more about the CMS you're building. Is this something you got out of a box or is this something you're building from the ground up?
So it's not a CMS. It is a content system.
Mm-hmm.
It hilariously enough, it's all being built in like the Google Suite right
Mm-hmm.
now. So I have a bunch of Google Docs that are focused on different topics. Like I've got my A to Z writing guidelines. I've got an inclusive language guide.
Okay.
I've
So let's
got
define a term. What do you mean by content system? Because I think you and I are thinking of different things.
Well, so beyond just the like, here's how to write and here's who to write about, I also have developed AI supports. So I have developed, so we have a private instance of Google Gemini. So I can build gems specifically for my coworkers to do discrete tasks. Like I have one that helps them write emails. So their emails actually match our style and sound like us. I have another one that edits our
I'm
KB
not sure if that's brilliant or micromanaging.
but you don't understand. Like we have so many different, like I just got done with a project where we were going through all of the automated emails that get sent by our platform based on different triggers, whether they just signed
Mm-hmm.
up for something or their bill is overdue or whatever. And nobody had ever looked at all of it together. Right? Your eyebrows tell me
Wow.
you already see where this is going. And there was
Yep.
74 emails. 74 separate emails that were completely different from each other. How they greeted, how they closed out, the content that they covered. Like it.
Oh, my
This is what
soul hurts just
happens.
hearing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it. Like it hurt my soul a little bit to find out it was that bad, but also like, here's a huge opportunity for me to make it better. And I get to just decide. Yeah, I have reviewers and stuff, but most of them are going to go with what I say. So like, I can just run with it and make a decision and be like, our CEO starts every email with, hey. So how about we just do that? And it's, hey, Sarah, or hey there, done, style decided, bam. And maybe if we're telling somebody that their account is past due, we shouldn't be signing off with cheers.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so like it's such a small thing when you're thinking about emails, but like how we communicate with our customers and our clients, that's an emotional thing. Language is an emotional thing. And at the end of the day, I want people to think about my company in a positive way. I want them, because I'm still in cybersecurity, so like cybersecurity can be really scary stuff.
Yeah.
We're sometimes talking to people on the worst day of their life. A lot of people focus on like, ooh, getting that new trial energy and woo woo woo, it's so fun. Come play with our cool stuff. But in cybersecurity, we are literally dealing with the worst day of their life, not just the first day, but also the worst day. And like, how can we empathetically support them through a moment of, oh my gosh, how much is this going to cost me? Is this going to crash my business? Is this going to crash my clients' businesses when you're talking about a managed service provider? And like, the scale of a hack sometimes is just unfathomable, and it can have repercussions down the line, years. We actually, long story, sometimes hackers actually get brought to trial. Like that actually does happen.
Which means all of the evidence that they took becomes public knowledge. Oh my gosh.
Sometimes, they can choose not to disclose certain items publicly, but basically the point is, I always want to have empathy for what mental space they're in as they're coming into my software platform, whatever. Like, I want to think about what brought them here, because I don't want to be cheerful in their face when they are freaking out.
Congratulations, you've been hacked.
Could you imagine? And I don't think a lot of people, I would like to think that more people think about it like this, but I have a feeling that's a little bit more rare. Or maybe I just want to feel like I'm special.
I found that a lot of people fail at empathy for other humans in general. I don't know if it's a failure of imagination or if social media has just rotted our brains, but I saw an interesting article the other day about how social media is getting us addicted to emotion, like the big highs and lows, and it's kind of both making us easily bored, which can make us sadistic, but also makes us want another hit of the highs and the lows. And that's why the rage bait is so popular, as well as things like, cute puppies.
I think the cute puppy videos, like that kind of soothing, all is right with the world. Like, if we could emphasize that more, that would be great. But there are things to be mad about in this world right now. Like,
True,
I don't know.
There's legitimate stuff, and then there's the stuff that's just trying to get people mad so that they get more clicks.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Anyway, on that note, where does UX writing and UX in general fit in the release process? So I know when I write documentation about where that goes, I joke that when the metaphorical furniture is done being moved around, that's when I start writing docs. But where does UX writing go in there?
It's funny because I'm thinking about like, what would all UX writers say? And I hope that they would approach it kind of similar to how I am. I try to get involved as early as possible. Like when they're spitballing ideas of what features to put together and what is the pain point they're trying to solve. And I want to be there, even if I'm a fly on the wall, just to know what is at the heart of what we're doing. Why are we doing the things we're doing? Why are we spending this money to make this thing, to put something out? Why? Um, and I also find myself super involved when I have a good relationship with my designers, when we're ideating on workflow, because again, going back to that, they think about it in steps. I think about it in what all do they need to, what are all the tasks that could possibly be involved in this and where does it come in? So we do a lot of like brainstorming together before they ever get to even a medium fidelity design. So I'm heavily involved with the designers. I'm even sometimes talking with the PMs about like, well, what about this use case and edge case? And, have you considered how they're going to get a license? Which nearly stopped a release one time, which was fantastic to be the person to ask that question. But that's kind of the value I bring, because like I can take what they're thinking about and then spin it and either look at it in a like super micro view or macro view, and like how does it come together with this and this and this and this, and what about this stage of the use cycle, and what about this in the future? And so I can help them go from we need this little feature to okay, let's look at the 5 phases of how to release this, from MVP to like the proverbial rocket ship, and the skateboard and bicycle and whatever in between. So I like to be everywhere. I generally tend to not be as heavily involved at the end stage, just because trying to help with release notes is an exhausting task. And at my current workplace, they're still trying to figure out what they really want to do there. And I've given my opinion and I've stepped back because I can't own that when I have all of this front end stuff to do. But I care about it. I care about it a lot. And because I am a solo writer, sometimes I even get involved all the way to the documentation stage, which at my current place we have a knowledge base. So it's KB articles written by support.
So, we love you, support. But speaking of non-UX writers, I know that you're a solo writer right now, but at previous companies, you've worked with non-UX writers. So how did that relationship go? Who handled what, and what were the zones of responsibility?
That I've always had like a blended role. I guess I'm just doing improv constantly. Yes, and so I guess the lines have always been a little blurry because I've handled documentation and the content that goes into the interface. So I'm close with technical writers. At every place I've worked at, I've wanted to be close to the marketing team because I understand that we need to be aligned on the terminology that we use, the way we phrase things, how we prioritize things. Like that's super important. And I think a lot of people miss that. What other writers? I love talking with sales engineers and sales enablement because like they see the nitty gritty, like the like really rough daily stuff every day, the sticking points that people run into. I love talking to support and like the KB articles that they do. Even just how they write their tickets sometimes is super interesting. So I talk to anybody and everybody who will listen about content because it all matters and it all ties together. It is one giant ecosystem.
Yep. Yeah, you and I were talking once about how technical writers are basically spies. Another universe, we would be fantastic spies because we're just so dang nosy.
I love that analogy because we are seeking information and we are going to get it out of you one way or another. And it's funny because like we are so doggedly persistent. I will ask you from 12 different directions to get to what I need to understand what this thing is. And people might not always enjoy that persistence, but I'm there for the user and I'm going to get what I need to get us there. I also think that we use a variety of tactics to get what we need. We can, and maybe this is not as manipulative as it sounds. Please take this with a grain of salt. I'm trying to be a little silly here, but like I'll find out what your favorite thing is. I'll talk to you about that so you like see me as a whole person. And you know that I see you as a whole person. even though I've been remote since 2016, I have amazing rapport with my previous colleagues. Like I have open invitations to visit people across the world because of that connection and that rapport and showing people that I care about them as a person. And
Yeah.
all of that, yeah, all of that helps me be a better writer, not just for the empathy of like person to person, but also because they're more inclined to give me what I need to know. So it's
This is
really,
why people skills are on my list of the 11 things that great technical writers do. 11
yes.
traits, great tech writers.
And that does make us good spies because the best
Yes.
spies are people.
Mm-hmm. Or at least they fake it really well. Yeah, because I've also seen a list that was top 10 jobs for people who don't like dealing with people. And tech writer was number 4, which I will accept because it's not like retail where people are randomly coming up to us. We can kind of control when we have to deal with people. Like it's going to be a meeting or something that we go to. So we're prepared for it.
Yes.
But
Yes. It is orchestrated contact, would be a good way to put it. And that's actually a really good point. Like when I was doing phone work in call center type stuff, which will burn the soul out of you very quickly, I found I had very little compassion and much less empathy for just random strangers. And now that I'm able to just imagine their needs and like think about their problems in depth without being bombarded, I have so much more kindness for them and so much more like, wow, this must really be awful. How can I help you? And
yeah.
just in general. So yeah, I think there's it's like peopling limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just enough.
But with people with some guardrails. You know,
Yes. Yes.
social with guardrails. So you spoke earlier about making gems for some of your coworkers. Can you tell me about how you use AI in your daily work, or how you don't use it?
No, I do. I do. I just think it's funny because I was definitely an AI holdout, and I generally think AI is still pretty garbage. Um,
Yeah, but it
but
has its uses.
yes, and that's what I found. When you apply AI to a very discrete task with very clear guidelines, i.e., that whole content system that I made,
Mm-hmm.
it does great. It does amazing things. Like right now, I have a user research gem that is so badass and it's so good at helping me see things I'm not seeing. But I also explicitly tell my AI gems that they can disagree with me. And that's where a lot of people fall down with their AIs because the AI is like a sycophant without it. And
Yep.
I don't want you to blow smoke. I want you to tell me when I'm wrong, and you better be able to back it up. So yes, I get into arguments with my own AI, um, and they have their limitations, but they are meant to be a tool to help you idea generate. They are not a tool to help you get to the finished product, and they should never be used in such a way. And that is my current hill that I will die on.
Yeah, one of my favorite uses that I had for it was one of my engineers asked me about an edit, like, why did you make this change? And I'm like, why did I make that change? It just sounded right to me. And I was like, okay, Chat GPT, why is this correct? And it actually was able to give me the proper grammar rule. And so that I found that helpful. And once I also had one of those completely soul killing tasks where you have to go through a bunch of SQL and change all of the SQL words from lowercase to uppercase.
Oh,
Yeah, I managed to get a prompt where all I had to do was paste the code block in, and then it would spit out the code block with the properly uppercase words, except for periodically it would forget what we were doing and completely rewrite the code block in some other language. So I had to keep reminding it. But still, way less soul killing than having to type it out myself.
I actually just did a training for my colleagues, teaching them about how to write AI prompts and how to write them
Mm-hmm.
better because that's a writing problem. It is
Yeah.
such a writing problem. And if you put garbage in, you are going to get garbage back. And we talked about the difference between like image generation, text generation, and then actually like agentic or agent AI, and how how you talk to them is very different. So, like image generation, you talk to that like you talk to a middle schooler, or not a middle schooler, like elementary school kid. You talk in short sentences. You don't use full grammar, and you have to like correct it a lot. It cannot be left unattended. Text generation, that's more like your middle schooler. They can be a little more independent. You can talk to them in full sentences, but you still have to check their work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the agentic or agent AI is more like a high schooler. Like, oh, they're pretty independent. They can go do things by themselves, but you need to check on them because otherwise you might end up with a house party you didn't plan on.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I had a really good time creating that training, and it was actually really well attended.
nice.
But there's
Oh,
so much that people don't understand about how you talk to the AI to get what you want back out of it, and how to check its work.
words to live by. Well, thank you for joining me, Kelly, on Technical Writing Uncensored. And for everybody watching, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. It really helps out the channel. And hey, leave us a comment. Tell us how you use AI in your daily work and how you work with UX writers, or if you work with UX text or UI text as part of your work. And see you next time.